This is Amud Yomi Gemara in Shabbos. Daf Tesvav Amud Aleph. We're holding in the second line of Tesvav Amud Aleph, in which we go back to the original statement of the Shemaina Aser Davar. Gufa says the Gemara, Amar Rav Yudah Amar Shmuel Shemaina Aser Gazru. There are 18 gezeras that were made, which is referring to what we learned, the 18 gezeras that are made when Shammai's yeshiva was more numerous than Hillel, and therefore the psak was like him. And 18 different items they argued. Says the Gemara Vatanya, but we learned in a Braisa, Hoshvu, that they agreed on these 18 items and there was no machlekes. Says the Gemara, this is what happens. Bye bye yoim nechliku. Really, they argued. Ulamachar, and then the next day, Hoshvu, they agreed. So Gufa says the Gemara, let's delve a little bit deeper. Again, so what happened is they debated the whole day. At the end of the day, they counted, and the yeshiva Beis Shammai was more numerous. So the psak was like Beis Shammai. And the next day, Beis Hillel was maskim to Beis Shammai. Kufa says Gemara Amaravuna in 3 cases they argued. What are the 3 cases that Shammai and Hillel themselves, not the yeshiva of Shammai and Hillel, which were the 18? What are the 3 cases that Shammai and Hillel themselves argued? Shammai Omer says the Gemara, Mikav challah, you have to take challah from 1 kav of flour. V'hillel Omer, mikabayim 2 kav chamayimrim. Like a divrei zeh, neither one. Elakavu mechza chayiv in challah, kav in a half. Mishegdilu amidais. And when the midais increased in Sipayri, Amru, they said, Chamisha Ravayim Kemach Chavim Chala, 5 Ravayim of flour is Chayv and Chala. Rabbi Yisrael Chamisha Peturin, Chamisha Ve'oid Chayavim. That's Machlekes number 1, the obligation and the share of Chala, a topic dear to my heart, Baruch Hashem, the halachos of Chala. Ve'edach, number 2, Machlekes of Shammai Hillel. Hillel Aimer Malihin Mayim Shuvim. A hin worth of drawn waters, paislin es hamikvah. There's 1 hin that's mixed into 40 sa. Everything is possible. Shachayiv adam leimer blushin rabbi. It says the Gemara, why did Hillel say moli hin is mayim shuvim? Because you should talk in the way that your Rebbe talks. And that's the reason why Hillel used the term hin, even though that wasn't a measurement that was relevant in his days. Shammai argues and he says, Tisha Kavim, 9 kav is that which passels the water. Like it, they argued until 2 gardiim, 2 weavers, came from the Shara Ashwa, that was a certain gate in Yerushalayim. And they said over in the name of Shemari and Avtalia, and Sheshlesh Lugim Mayim Shuvin, 3 log Paisanas Amikva, the Kimu Chachamis Devreim, and the Chachamim were masking to their words. Ve'edach, and what's the final machlekes of Shammai and Hillel? We're smack in the middle of Tezvavam and Aleph. First word in line is Shammai. Shammai Oimrim Kol Anoshim Dayun Shait. Halacha regarding Toma V'Taira, a halacha that's in the beginning of the Mishnayos of Idios as well as in Nida. Shammai Omer Kol Anoshim Dayon Shaitan. That when they see dam, from that moment and onward, that's when they're tamei. Hillel Omer no. Mifkida Lifkida goes backwards from their last time that they were paiked. They examine themselves. Vafilu Yamim Harbe. So if 3 days prior was last time they knew that they had a cheskes tahira, we have to assume now that she sees blood that 3 days prior, maybe the blood was there already. Ella. Chachamim creative shara. Me'is la'eis v'mayla de mevkida l'vkida, mevkida v'kim mayla de'is la'eis. What does that mean? That if it's me'is la'eis is less than the last check, or if the last check is less than eis la'eis. Eis la'eis is 24 hours. So the Chachamim hold, either we go back and say everything she touched the last 24 hours is tamei, if she checked earlier than that. If she checked within the last 24 hours, then we go back to the last time that she checked. Ask the Gemara, the first one in line is Visu. Is there no other cases that Shami and Hillel argue? Vayika. What about the following Mishnah and Chagiga? Hillel Eimer Lismai, V'Shami Eimer Lismai. When we're bringing an animal, a karban on Yantif, do you do smicha? Do you lean on the animal? Hillel says yes. Shami says no. Answers the Gemara, Kikam Ravuna. When do Ravuna say that they argue in three cases is Heicha Delekap looked at Ravasa Ba'adadi when there's no one else argues. Whereas this machlekes about doing smichas and a machlekes, an older machlekes. Says the Gemara another kasha. Vayika, there's another case. Aboitzer legas. Someone who harvests grapes for the wine press. Shamei Omer Hochshar. Shamei says they become muchshar, they become susceptible to be mikabel toma from the moment that they are harvested, because at that moment a little bit of juice comes out of the grapes. No, not at that point until they actually go into the wine press. Says the Gemara Bar Mehi. It's true that's a case where they argue, but that case is not part of our list. Because Hillel was quiet to Shammai after Hillel heard what Shammai said. Therefore, that's not listed in cases where Shammai and Hillel argue. Continues the Gemara that we learned back 2 days ago about Yossi ben Yoezer. Says the Gemara, they made 5 gezeros. Now the Gemara teaches us what are those. Continuing elaborate a little more on the brayso that we quoted back on Daf Yudal Amud Beis. So Yossi ben Yoezer, Shrei of Yossi ben Yochanan, Ishu Shalayim goes to Tomal Eretz Ha'amim v'Aklis Chuchas. They made a gezerah of Toma on Eretz Ha'amim in the Chutzaris as well as Klei Schuchas. Ask the Gemara of our Rabbanan Dishmaina Aser Gazer, why are you telling me that this was something made by Yossi ben Yoezer and Yochanan Ishkain Gadol? But this was something made before the second Beis Hamikdash. For Rabbanim Dishmainim Shana Gazer, the 80 years prior to the second Beis Hamikdash made this gezerah. Where do we see this? When Rav Yishmael Rav Yossi was sick, they sent to him, Rabbi, tell us 2 or 3 things. In the name of your father. Shalach lahem. So Yishmael Rav Yossi responded, Kach Amar Abba, Meyo Shmainim Shana Shalchar Abayis, 180 years before this Beis Hamikdash is destroyed. Pashta Malchus Yisrael, the terrible Goyim will spread out over Klal Yisrael. Shemainim Shana Shalchar Abayis, 80 years before the Chorban, Gazu Tomal Eretz Amim, they made a gezerah of Toma on Chutzars Akleis Chuches. Arbaim Shana Shalchar Abayis. 40 years before the Chorban Beis Hamikdash, Gosel Sanhedrin left Eretz Yisrael. V'yashvu la bechanuyos, and they went to a place. Excuse me, they didn't leave Eretz Yisrael. They left their location on the Har HaBayis. They went to a place called Chanuyos, a different area of Har HaBayis. Says the Gemara L'mayel. So who cares that the Sanhedrin was relocated? Just to parenthetically point out, we already listed the kasha. The kasha was that we just saw that they made a gzeira on Eretz Ha'amim and Klis Chuches many years prior. But once we're on the brayso, so we talk about the brayso a little bit more. What halacha does make a difference that the Sanhedrin was moved? Amar Rav Yisik bar Rav Dimi Leimer still done a din kanas. This is no more din kanas. Fines levied by Bezdin as that is only when Bezdin is in the original place. Dine Kanasa, do you really mean Dine Kanasa? They no longer made? It means Dine Nefashis. Okay, now we understand the brayso. But what's the kasha? The kasha is that we see this gezerah on Eretz Amim. This gezerah on Kleis Chuchus was many years prior. Answers the Gemara. So what did it mean that Yochanan Ishkain, that Yossi ben Yoezer straight and Yossi ben Yochanan Ishu Shalayim made these gezeros? V'chi tema 5 lines to the bottom. Maybe you're going to tell me B'shmainim Shaman Nami Inu Have. Maybe you just got to get your history right. Maybe Yossi ben Yoezer and Yossi ben Yochanan were around during those 80 years. But says the Gemara Vatani, we learned in a brayso Hillel v'Shimon Gamliel v'Shimon Nahagu Nisiusan. They were Nasiim Lifnei Abayis Meim Shana, 100 years before the Chorban. Mituvo is even earlier. So they certainly were not within those final 80 years before the Chorban. We turn over to the Tvavam Beis, and finally the Gemara concludes, Ela Aseinu Yossi ben Yoezer Yossi ben excuse me, Yosef and Yezer Shreid and Yosef and Yochanan Ish Yerushalayim, they came Gazer Agusha Lisraif. They said that the land of Chutz La'aretz, part of the earth, has a din of Tumah that if Truma touches it, you have to burn it. Va'avir like klum. But the airspace of Chutz La'aretz doesn't have a din of Tumah. V'asr Rabbanim the Shwen and Shan, and then later on, the Rabbanim of those 80 years prior to the Churban came, and they were Gazer Avira Litlais, that even the airspace had a din of Tumah, Dira Banan. We'll stop over here. I know we're sort of in the middle of a sentence, but we'll stop over here and we'll continue in the next year. B'siyata Dishmaya.